The balcony's ready. We're all ready. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Alameda. Tonight is Tuesday, March 17, 2026. It's also St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day. And the council is about to go into closed session. But before we do, I would like to ask City Clerk Laura Weisinger to please call the roll.
Council members Bowler. Here. Daysog.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Mayor Essie Ashcraft.
I'm here.
For President and Vice Mayor Pryor is absent tonight.
That's right. And so we go on to number 2. Do we have any public comment on closed session items only?
We have none.
Okay, then we close item 2 and we move on to the closed session items. Item singular we will consider. Madam Clerk, would you please introduce that item?
Yes, it's 3A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A. The case name is City of Alameda versus Greenway Golf Associates, Inc. The court is Alameda County Superior Court. The case number is 22CV011964.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that, everyone associated with this particular item, come on back. And to the members of the public, we intend to be back before you at 7 o'clock this evening. Thank you. Hey. All right, I'm going to ask everyone to please take your seats. Thank you. All right, and apologies for starting a little bit late, but closed session went a little bit longer. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Alameda. Tonight is Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. It's St. Patrick's Day. We're all Irish today. Happy St. Patrick's Day. The City Council has just come back from closed session, and I would like to ask the City Clerk, Laura Weisiger, to please report any action taken in closed session.
Thank you. The item was existing litigation with Greenway Golf, and staff provided information and council provided direction, which carried unanimously by 4 ayes with Vice Mayor Pryor absent.
Thank you for that. And with that announcement, we will adjourn the special session, the closed session, and I will call the regular City Council meeting to order. It is still Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. I would like to ask my colleague, Councilmember Tony Desog, to please lead us in the pledge.
Please rise as you're able. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Desog. And Madam Clerk, could we have the roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmembers Bowler.
Here.
Desog.
Here.
Jensen. Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft.
Here.
4 present, and Vice Mayor Pryor is absent tonight.
Thank you. The next item is agenda changes. Do we have any agenda changes? Councilmember Desog.
Yes, I would like to postpone my council referral to the next regular city council agenda meeting when hopefully we have 5 council members, which I expect we would. So that's what I would like to do.
Okay, and does that require a motion, City Attorney? Nope.
We do not need to.
Okay, well, that's okay with me as the person running the meeting. And but just for clarity, Madam Clerk, could you introduce, please announce what item it is that we aren't going to hear tonight, just in case anybody was here for that.
Yes, so it is item 10A under referrals, and it was placed on the agenda by Councilmember Desog, so it's the one about, yep.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So
Okay.
we didn't have any speaker slips on it, but
You didn't have
remote
any.
people might have raised their hand, but, yeah.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. So then we move on to, is this where I do my State of the City, Madam Clerk?
No,
Permissions?
that's under 7A, first
Oh, I'm
regular
the first,
agenda.
right.
Yep,
Okay,
yep,
okay, great.
Yep, you're good.
So then, before we open, so there are no proclamations, special orders of the day, because you get to listen to me do my State of the City shortly. But before we go on to oral communications, I just want to share the rules of conduct that we observe in Alameda City Council meetings. So I'd like to remind people that this is a business meeting. It's not theater. It's not a sporting event. We are here to do the people's business, your business, and we do so in an orderly fashion, which means there is no applause, boos, cheers, jeers. We don't do the wave. We just sit and respectfully listen to fellow speakers. If you are a speaker, we ask that you respect the time, and when the buzzer goes off, we ask that you stop talking, or before the buzzer goes off is good too. And the reason I like to make these reminders is that we always want to maintain the City Council chambers as a safe place to speak. This is, again, your house, the town square, if you will. And I don't want anyone to not get up and speak because they're afraid someone might boo them or laugh or do something rude. So we just treat people the way we'd like to be treated. We speak when it's our turn. We listen. I always say applaud in your heart. It's okay to hold up signs. That's your First Amendment right. But unless you're in that very last row, please don't hold them up over your head where you might block someone's view. And I remind us of these rules most meetings because for many people, public speaking is one of the most stressful things they ever do. Not for those of us who spend a little time in the courtroom or maybe still do, but for most people it is. And yet I want people to feel comfortable to get up and speak. And then oftentimes we have young people in the audience, and even though I don't see any kids here now, they might be watching at home. We want to set a good civic example for them of what democracy should look like. And so that's what we do. It's not complicated. And then I read this magic language, and then we never have to use it, but Penal Code Section 403 states that it is a criminal offense for any person to, without authority of law, willfully disturb or break up any assembly or meeting that is not unlawful in its character, other than an assembly or meeting referred to in Penal Code Section 302 or Elections Code 18340. First violations will receive a warning, and continued violations will require additional action, which could include police intervention. There, I said it. Now we can move on. Madam Clerk, do we have speakers under oral communication non-agenda item?
We do. We have two, so they get 3 minutes each. The first is Catherine Schwartz, and the second is Kyle Sinkoff.
Oh, welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name is Catherine Schwartz, and I'm the CEO of Alameda Family Services. I'm here to give you an important update about the Alameda High School Health Center. The Alameda High School-based Health Center was founded in 1993 by AFS. Historically, we partnered with Native American Health Center to provide the physical health services, while AFS provides mental health services. Unfortunately, due to staffing shortages, the Native American Health Center has given notice, and as of April 10th, 2026, they will no longer be providing physical health services to students at the Alameda High School site. Many students report that being able to access physical health care at the health center is the only opportunity they have to obtain services such as reproductive and sexual health care, wellness exams, sports physicals, immunizations, and many more. The hundreds of Alameda High School students that we serve through this health center every year deserve to be able to continue receiving these critical services. We have been aggressively pursuing new medical provider partnerships and are currently in conversation with Roots Community Clinic and La Familia. They both have expressed strong interest in partnering. However, due to uncertainties surrounding Medi-Cal reimbursement, which is one of the primary ways they get paid for services, they are understandably hesitant to expand without first-year bridge funding to mitigate their startup and reimbursement risks. I am here tonight sharing this information with you to make sure you are fully aware of the impending health center closure should we not find the first-year bridge funding requested by our potential partners. Please know that to secure the funding, we are casting a wide net among our longtime partners, including AUSD, the AC Board of Supervisors, and now this evening with you. We are hopeful that collectively we will be able to find a way forward. Thank you so much for your consideration. I am happy to follow up with any of you about ideas or next steps you might suggest. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Kyle Sinkoff.
Welcome, Speaker Sinkoff.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day. My name is Kyle Sinkoff. I am the Director of School-Based Services for Alameda Family Services, and my printer was broken, so. So we are here today with AFS to make sure that the City Council is aware of the potential loss of services to the 1,900 students at Alameda High School for next school year. Some quick stats. About 200 students are served at the Alameda High School-based health center last year, totaling close to 1,000 visits. We currently are on track to significantly increase that number this school year. Currently we have 115 clients and almost 600 visits already by the end of December. Demographics of the students served from our school-based health centers: 28% Latino, 26% Asian, 18% white, 15% Black or African American, and 13% other. 30 to 40% of these students are Medi-Cal eligible. This year, 91% of medical visits at our school-based health center in Alameda High was for sexual and reproductive health. By December of this school year, 755 students accessed safer sex supplies and other health products at our Alameda High clinic, which wouldn't be available without our funding. In Alameda, so far this school year, we've had 7 student pregnancies. This is extremely high based on previous years and is an upward trend. many students access our health center for, again, reproductive and health services. And in addition to our direct services, we also reach hundreds of students across our campus, reaching already hundreds by, again, the end of December into now. We do campaigns and presentations in classrooms and on campus on mental health, sexual health, healthy relationships, alcohol and other drugs, nutrition and body image, and much more. We also do one-to-one sexual education and do classroom presentations and our famous You Are Loved campaign on suicide prevention and awareness. We thank you for your attention and consideration to the health and well-being of our Alameda High students. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker?
That was our last
Oh,
speaker.
okay, so we will close oral communication on non-agenda items, and we will move on to the consent calendar, and these are routine items approved by one motion unless council members remove an item for discussion, and any removed items will be called after we finish the regular agenda. And council members may speak for up to 3 minutes on the consent calendar. So first off, are there any items the council wants to pull from the consent calendar? Okay. Seeing no hands raised, does council have any questions that they'd like to ask about any consent calendar items? And that doesn't require pulling an item. Seeing none. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers on consent calendar?
There are none.
We'll close public comment on the consent calendar. Any council comments or perhaps a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar? I have a motion by Councilmember Jensen, seconded by Councilmember Daysog. Any discussion? Seeing, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. 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 All right, the consent calendar is approved unanimously. And now we move on to item 7A.
Item 7A is Mayor's State of the City Address.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you to everyone for being here. So before I begin my State of the City address, I need to provide the following information required by Alameda's Sunshine Ordinance. City Clerk Laura Weisinger reports that in 2025, only one Sunshine Ordinance complaint was filed, but it was incomplete, so no hearing was scheduled. So on to the 2026 State of the City. Looking back, it has been the honor of a lifetime and an incredible privilege to serve as mayor of this wonderful, vibrant city for the past 8 years, and on the city council for 6 years before that. This is a community where I grew up, returned to, and raised a family. I have gotten to know so many of our amazing residents and business owners and work with the city staff, many of whom are in the room tonight. That is second to none. It doesn't get any better than that. This past January, I attended the U.S. Conference of Mayors winter meeting in Washington, D.C., and at one session, mayors were challenged to ask and answer 2 questions. The first was, what decisions are you making today that will positively impact people's lives in the future? And when your mayoral term ends, how will your city be better because of what you did? So as I deliver my last State of the City address, I want to start with the first question. What decisions are you making today that will positively impact people's lives in the future? And let me quickly add that no one, including mayors, does anything by themselves. As mayor, I have just one vote, like the rest of the city council, and as I often say, with one vote, you can do absolutely nothing. So I want to take a moment to recognize the current Alameda City Council and thank them for being my collaborators, my thought partners. We don't always agree. We have some lively debates, sometimes disagreements, but thoughtful debate is essential to good governance, and we are all working for the betterment of this community. So thank you to my colleagues, Vice Mayor Michelle Pryor, who's away this evening, and council members Greg Bowler, Tony Daysog, and Tracy Jensen. My priorities as mayor have been and continue to be the health and safety of all who live, work, visit, and play in Alameda. Let's start with public safety, which encompasses making our streets safe for all, but especially the most vulnerable users, children, bicyclists, pedestrians, individuals with mobility issues, older adults. In 2025, Alameda's Planning, Building, and Transportation Director Alan Ty and Public Works Director Aaron Smith worked to deliver major transportation and safety improvements, including the Central Avenue Safety Improvements Project, featuring Alameda's first roundabouts and a protected two-way cycle track, and to complete a protected two-way cycle track on Grand Street from Shoreline Drive to Otis Drive that will eventually continue north on Grand Street to Clement Avenue. And these new protected cycle tracks provide safe travel routes for hundreds of Alameda school children every day, because in Alameda, 40% of students walk or ride their bikes to school every day, which supports good health and also our climate action goals by reducing automobile traffic and greenhouse gas emissions. These projects, as well as the improvements to the Cross Alameda Trail, are among the reasons that Alameda was recently named a gold-level bicycle-friendly community by the League of American Bicyclists, a distinction held by just 32 cities across the country. Credit for this honor goes to our hard-working city staff, many of whom are here tonight, the City Council for approving bike-friendly policies and projects, and our residents who made their voices heard, guided by advocacy groups like Bike Walk Alameda and CASA. Hello, Ruth Abbey. 2025 also saw construction of our first neighborhood greenway on Pacific Avenue, where there were those sometimes controversial slow street barricades were replaced with traffic circles and speed humps to slow traffic. And as a little aside, I was grocery shopping Saturday morning, and I ran into a resident. She was wearing bike shorts, and we were commenting on what a nice day it was. And she said she'd just ridden across the city, and she said, "Do you know that Pacific Avenue is my favorite route to ride?" And I said, "I am going to carry that back to City Hall." So there, I just did. So these traffic circles, speed humps, you will see more of them around the city. And this is how we are making our streets safer for all users. Our other unofficial traffic calming devices are those roving bands of wild turkeys you may have encountered, but they are harder to regulate. Our residents and businesses all want and deserve to feel safe. So let me share some progress we are making along those lines. Alameda Police Chief Nishant Joshi proudly reports that 2025 marked the second of 2 consecutive years of double-digit crime reduction across all categories of crime, and these are significant percentage reductions. A 45% reduction in vehicle thefts, 15% reduction in larceny theft, 14% reduction in vandalism, and 11% reduction in burglaries, and this trend is continuing in 2026. Traffic enforcement with an emphasis on dangerous driving also increased in 2025 by 91%, nearly doubling last year's statistics, and this is another way we make our streets safe for all users. Chief Joshi has also assigned police officers to our business districts, where they provide coverage 7 days a week during peak hours. Their presence has significantly decreased response times to calls for service from local businesses as we work to provide a safe environment for local businesses and their customers. And the Alameda Fire Department, under the leadership of Fire Chief Nick Luby, will celebrate its 150th anniversary of service to the city this August 2026, and we may need the fire marshal to approve all the candles for that cake. In 2025, AFD officially placed Fireboat Neptune into service after a year of training and preparation. This vessel, which can pump more than 4,000 gallons of water per minute, will serve Alameda and our regional partners along the estuary and bay waters for years to come. Phase 1 of the city's emergency water supply system was also placed into service in 2025, which will allow Fireboat Neptune to provide a sustained firefighting water supply in the event of a catastrophic failure of our municipal water system. This will significantly enhance the city's maritime firefighting capability, disaster resilience, and overall community safety. In 2026, the fire department will embark on a long overdue comprehensive strategic plan, including evaluation of the department's mission and long-term goals to chart its course for the next 5 to 10 years and ensure alignment with evolving community needs. Also in 2026, the Firefighter Memorial is anticipated to be completed at Fire Station 3 on Buena Vista Avenue to honor AFD members who made the ultimate sacrifice and service to our community and ensure their legacy is never forgotten. Finally, the CARE team completed its 4th year of service, responding to over 1,100 calls in 2025 that resulted in 767 direct CARE team client engagements. This innovative mental health crisis response model is built on a strong partnership with Alameda Family Services. We heard from a couple of their representatives a moment ago, and other key stakeholders throughout the East Bay, and continues to refine and strengthen its service delivery approach while helping set the standard for fire department-based mental health services in California. The City Attorney's Office, led by City Attorney Eben Shen, helps assure community safety and housing security. For example, the Public Prosecution Unit, headed by Chief Assistant City Attorney Julia Gonzalez, recently launched the Victim Services Program that, with funding from a state crisis intervention program grant, assists crime victims and witnesses by providing case management and support services throughout the often lengthy criminal justice process. In 2025, the Public Rights Team, co-led by Rent Program Director Bill Chapin and Special Counsel Adam Radinsky, helped Alameda residents avoid becoming victims by responding to over 1,100 public inquiries regarding consumer protection, housing rights, and fair labor standards. Last year, the Rent Program, another division of the City Attorney's Office, secured full rent control protection for 150 residential units at Admiral's Cove after prevailing in a landmark California Court of Appeals case. The Rent Program also identified more than $500,000 in invalid rent payments that have now been refunded to the tenants who were overcharged. And I always want to highlight that in this today's very expensive housing market that we find ourselves in the Bay Area, and residents are paying sometimes more than 50% of their income towards housing costs, to have been overcharged a cumulative $500,000 is huge. And so huge kudos also to the City Attorney's Office for getting those funds refunded to the tenants. Another important function of the Rent Program is educating landlords and tenants about their respective rights and obligations. In 2025, Rent Program staff conducted 22 public workshops, responded to more than 9,000 inquiries from the public, and completed 47 mediations that reduced unnecessary conflict and litigation between landlords and tenants. And supporting another vital function of the City Attorney's Office, the Rent Program and Public Rights Team will soon receive a $150,000 grant from the California Strategic Growth Council to support anti-displacement services that keep residents housed. Finally, the Alameda City Attorney's Office received the American Bar Association's 2025 Hodson Award, and this prestigious award is made to only one government or public sector law office in the entire nation each year. And it is awarded for, and this comes from the award language, specific and extraordinary service by a government or public sector office. In this case, the Alameda City Attorney's Office was recognized for acting with urgency and resolve to protect 50 families living in the Barnhill Marina from imminent housing displacement after a new landlord sought to increase rents by as much as $178,000. About 50% of the tenants were over the age of 65, and many were low-income or fixed-income households and without the means to absorb such steep rent increases. And then in November of 2024, the Alameda County Superior Court ruled fully in favor of the city in this case, imposing over $335,000 in penalties against the marina owners and issuing a permanent injunction to prevent further harassment of tenants. The city's Housing and Human Services Division, under the direction of Assistant City Manager Amy Wooldridge, helps keep Alameda residents housed with its in-house engagement team that connects unhoused individuals with service providers and works to prevent vulnerable individuals from becoming homeless. This fall, the city will open a newly renovated and expanded day center and safe parking facility to provide critical first-line services for people who are unhoused, including emergency overnight shelter, meals, showers, laundry, and supportive services. And the city also continues to provide funding to help local churches operate a seasonal warming shelter. This year, from December 3, 2025, until April 30th, 2026, because it doesn't usually get so warm at this time of the year. In addition to a safe place to sleep overnight in new sleeping bags donated by REI, warming shelter guests are served a hot dinner and breakfast the next morning. There is also a shower facility, ability to do laundry, and this year a case manager funded by the city to connect guests with needed services to help them find permanent housing. Huge thanks to the members and clergy of Christ Episcopal Church for their generosity, and to the many community volunteers who assist with the warming shelter, including a local Girl Scout troop that designed the online form used to sign up to volunteer or provide meals. As you can see, there is a strong volunteer spirit in the city of Alameda. And I am proud that Alameda is doing its part to address the state's housing crisis. Last month, Dr. Margot Kushel spoke to the mayors of Alameda County. Dr. Kushel is a professor of medicine at UCSF and a practicing internist at SF General Hospital who has done extensive research on the causes and consequences of homelessness, including on physical and mental health. Did you know, for instance, that the fastest growing homeless population are individuals who first became unsheltered in their 50s? Dr. Kushel firmly believes, based on nationwide data, that homelessness is a housing problem that will be significantly reduced by providing more housing that is affordable. She offers the state of West Virginia as an example, noting that West Virginia's population includes individuals who have mental health and substance abuse issues. The opioid crisis is huge in West Virginia. But nonetheless, there is very little homelessness in West Virginia because housing is cheaper there. In January 2025, as a result of the policies the Alameda City Council approved to increase housing production and reduce barriers to housing construction, including streamlined permitting, the city of Alameda was designated a pro-housing city by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, and this designation provides more than bragging rights. It offers Alameda exclusive access to certain grants and additional points for competitive housing, community development, and infrastructure funding opportunities offered by HCD. We have already received a $1 million grant as a result of this award. So virtue is its own reward, but sometimes it comes with a monetary award. Currently, we find ourselves in a slow housing market due to interest rates, so much market uncertainty given the global situation and other economic factors, which resulted in a relatively low number of building permits being issued in 2025. According to Planning, Building, and Transportation Director Alan Ty, last year the city issued building permits for only 65 housing units, and 52 of those were ADUs, or accessory dwelling units. But nonetheless, these ADUs, which are smaller homes, help fill the need for housing that is affordable by design, further demonstrating our commitment to housing all Alamedans and living up to our pro-housing city designation. And importantly, over the last few months, we have sold a dozen below-market rate homes through a streamlined lottery process, which provides people with lower incomes the opportunity to build equity through home ownership. I spoke earlier about safety improvements we are making to local streets, but because we are an island, water transit continues to be a popular commute option. Bless you. WETA, the Water Emergency Transportation Authority, reports that approximately 1 million ferry riders traveled to and from Alameda's 3 ferry terminals in 2025. And think about that number, if you will. It represents cars that weren't on the roads. And Woodstock, the little yellow water shuttle to and from West Alameda and Oakland's Jack London Square, carried over 125,000 riders last year, including those with bikes, strollers, and wheelchairs. In early 2027, Woodstock's schedule will expand to help people travel on and off the island when construction work begins on the Posey Tube for the Oakland Alameda Access Project. The intermittent partial closure of the tubes, as well as the popularity of the ferry and Woodstock's estuary crossings, highlight the need for a bicycle pedestrian bridge across the estuary and engineered to accommodate emergency vehicles to expand access to and from West Alameda. Last year, staff completed the project initiation document, or the PID, and are now working on the waterways study that will be completed by June 2027 and followed by preparation of environmental documents. And somewhat ironically, just this afternoon, as I returned from Sacramento, so I've been in Sacramento all day with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. We're lobbying for state transportation and housing funding. And I was returning from Sacramento on Amtrak, and an Alameda resident sat down right across the aisle and said, "Hi, Mayor." And then he leaned over and said, "Mayor, we really need that bicycle pedestrian bridge across the estuary." And I said, "Working on it." But anyway, that's what this resident said, and he is not alone in those thoughts. And then as I highlight the health and safety of our residents, businesses, and visitors, I want to emphasize that all of our city departments contribute to keeping our community clean, safe, and healthy. For example, over the past year, the Public Works Department updated the sewer system management plan to ensure long-term system reliability and protection of public and environmental health. Public Works Director Aaron Smith and city staff are also acutely aware of the need to prepare Alameda's aging infrastructure for flooding, earthquakes, and other natural disasters. And to that end, Alameda voters may consider a bond measure this November to help fund unmet infrastructure needs. And of course, parks are essential to community well-being, and Alameda is well-resourced with parks and recreational opportunities. Alameda Recreation and Parks Director Justin Long proudly notes the anticipated completion of Estuary Park on the West End in late 2026, that's this year, where 5 acres of vacant land are being transformed into a vibrant new public space to gather, play, and connect with an inclusive playground, pickleball and basketball courts, a dog park, picnic areas, and EV chargers. When our new aquatic center, a long-awaited investment, opens in late 2027, it will provide modern, inclusive facilities for swimmers of all ages and abilities. Libraries also support community well-being, as well as literacy, lifelong education, and so much more. Alameda Library Director Michael Eitner reports that there were more than 216,000 visits to the library across our 3 branches in the last fiscal year, with almost 760,000 items checked out. Across Alameda's 3 library locations, there is now a story time every day of the week for children, parents, and caregivers to enjoy, including story hours in Spanish and Mandarin. In the coming months, the library will launch a more user-friendly event calendar and online reservations for study rooms at the main library. Library services have also expanded to meet community needs, and in December 2025, we initiated a 12-month pilot program with a clinical social worker from Alameda Family Services who provides 30 hours of on-site support to library patrons at the main library, including, I don't know how school teachers do it, talking all day, including informal mental health support and referrals to case managers, housing, social services, non-emergency medical care, immigrant support, and domestic violence prevention programs. We don't wait for people to come to these services. We are there for them at the library, which is just leveling the playing field because it is free and open to all. Our Base Reuse and Economic Development, or BRED, Director Abby Thorne-Lyman reports that the city has entitled 2,094 new homes to eventually be built at Alameda Point, and last year developers Catellus and Brookfield received the California Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program's top-ranked award for the Reshape Neighborhood Project at Alameda Point, which is providing new homes and amenities for formerly unhoused families, veterans, domestic violence survivors. BRED supports businesses of all sizes, including by funding the Small Business Development Center that advised nearly 200 businesses in one-on-one sessions last year, and by expanding its facade improvement grant program to include crime prevention through environmental design improvements, or CEPTED. BRED helps increase the safety and security of local businesses. This department also oversaw implementation of the 2-year Rise Up Alameda pilot program that provided 150 low-income Alamedans with a guaranteed minimum income of $1,000 per month. The program, which ended last December, resulted in demonstrated improvements to participants' social, emotional, and financial well-being. These findings provide an important contribution to the growing body of evidence demonstrating the benefits of an unencumbered minimum income. Our city's economic condition is also healthy, according to Finance Director Ross McCarthy, who proudly reports strong fund reserves that reflect careful stewardship and responsible financial planning. However, Director McCarthy cautions that we must be clear-eyed, in his words, about forecasted structural budget deficits projected over the next few years. This will require disciplined decision-making and long-term solutions as we focus our resources on delivering high-quality core city services, public safety, infrastructure, and community programs while safeguarding our financial stability for the future. IT, or Information Technology Department, led by Demetrius Kagampan, is modernizing city operations and strengthening our network infrastructure to ensure secure, reliable, and uninterrupted services for our community, while advancing innovation through a responsible AI pilot program and reinforcing our cybersecurity defenses to protect city systems and sensitive information. Alameda is fortunate to own its own electric utility, Alameda Municipal Power, or AMP, and under the leadership of General Manager Tim Haynes, who's with us tonight, AMP continues to provide reliable, locally controlled electric service while maintaining some of the lowest rates in the Bay Area. Over the past year, AMP advanced grid reliability and wildfire risk reduction efforts, supported electrification initiatives, and expanded customer programs that help residents and businesses transition to cleaner energy. Moving forward, AMP will continue investing in infrastructure resiliency and technology to support Alameda's growing community and climate goals. The guardian of those climate goals is Sustainability and Resilience Manager Danielle Mueller, who's also here tonight, and says that 2025 was a positive and productive year for climate action in Alameda, and that we are on track to meet our goal of reducing emissions 50% below 2005 levels by 2030, and that is just around the corner. Impressively, community-wide emissions have dropped 29% since 2005, even as the city's population and number of local jobs has grown. So we are well on track. The city made other meaningful, measurable progress toward its climate goals by updating the Climate Action and Resiliency Plan, or CARP, continuing the Alameda Youth Climate Ambassadors Program with high school environmental clubs, expanding access to public electric vehicle charging, including the city's first ever curbside EV chargers, growing the urban forest with volunteer tree plantings, and moving important sea level rise planning and resilience projects forward despite reductions in federal funding. I am also pleased to announce that in 2025, Danielle Mueller was recognized with the Hidden Hero of the Greenbelt Award by the Greenbelt Alliance for her leadership and vision in creating the Oakland Alameda Adaptation Committee. As you can see, Alameda is leading the way to creating a cleaner, safer, healthier city and region. So these are the decisions that I help lead that I believe will positively impact people's lives into the future. But all is not rosy. I'm a realist, and I always say we talk about everything, the good and the bad, and the city does face some significant challenges, including the current political landscape. As I drafted this address, and this was even a couple weeks earlier, but things have not gotten better, the U.S. and Israel had launched attacks on Iran, triggering repercussions across the wider Middle East. The federal government is still partially shut down, specifically the Department of Homeland Security, over Congress's inability to agree on appropriate guidelines and restrictions for federal agents conducting immigration enforcement. So how should cities respond to this sort of situation? How should our city respond? I believe that the path forward to counter abuse of government power lies with the courts. To that end, the city attorney's office and I have signed on to a number of amicus briefs supporting the rights of states and local governments, including Portland, Oregon, Los Angeles, and Minneapolis, to govern without being subjected to the militarization of their streets or to be required to support federal civil immigration enforcement. And we have, these cases that we've signed on to have an impressive track record. The city has also joined other local jurisdictions in litigating against the federal government to protect local funding from unconstitutional conditions, such as requiring use of local resources to support federal civil immigration enforcement, like in exchange for federal funding. But when we speak of the federal government, we also need to remember that we face uncertainty around the Veterans Administration Clinic and Columbarium planned for Alameda Point. Despite federal funds having been allocated for this project, fully allocated when Congresswoman Barbara Lee represented us in Congress, and in a previous administration, those plans were halted without notice or explanation to the city. However, I, as well as our federal lobbyists and our federal representatives in Washington, D.C., joined by veterans organizations, continue to express opposition and seek to restore funding for this vital project. But there are also reasons to celebrate. The process of hiring a new city manager is underway and going well. We thank interim city manager Adam Politzer for his service during this transition time. Last but not least, the Aussies are coming. We are so excited that the Australian men's national soccer or football team, as they call it there, the Australia Socceroos, chose the Oakland Roots and Soul training facility at Harbor Bay Business Park to be their base camp for the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup this June and July. The city is working with our business community to ensure Alameda is ready to make the Football Australia delegation and its tens of thousands of lively visiting fans feel right at home. This will involve not just our restaurants and shopping districts, but also relationship-building events for Alameda and Australia's tech and advanced manufacturing businesses. We can't wait to welcome the Aussies, and I can tell you, from the delegation that visited Alameda recently, they are so much fun. We're going to just transform Alameda into Little Sydney or something. But now on to the second question the mayors were asked to answer. When your mayoral term ends, how will your city be better because of what you did? And so here are the things I'm most proud of, and I've listed them in alphabetical order so as not to appear to favor one over the other from years of training as a mother of twins. So starting at the top of the alphabet, the Alameda Food Bank's new forever home. This is how Alameda is addressing food insecurity. Alameda Point Collaborative, the new reshaped neighborhood, will house formerly unhoused families, veterans, and domestic violence survivors out at Alameda Point. Attitudes. I have seen in my almost 8 years as mayor remarkably changing attitudes toward homelessness. When we first started, I mean, we've had homeless issues, but they've become more prominent over the years, certainly probably more during COVID. And at first, the response I would get, the communications I would get from residents was make them go away, send them to Oakland, I don't want to see them. But our community over time, and our residents, our businesses, our nonprofits, have shown an incredible capacity for learning about the complex causes of homelessness and for responding with compassion. And I am so proud. I will make one warning, and this is my warning under the penal code section I have just read. If another disruption is heard from this individual, I will ask the Alameda Police Department to please remove her. All right, you have an opportunity to be quiet and listen for the rest of the time I'm speaking. Okay, she needs to leave. She needs to leave.
Right? You're all about transparency.
We'll take a brief pause here.
All about transparency. Tell them where the $10 million is. Where's Joey Harrison now?
And this is a repeat of what occurred when I gave my State of the City before the Alameda City Council. And what I did explain to people then, and I'll repeat it now, what you have just witnessed is one of the many faces of mental illness. I am proud that our city offers many resources for those with these struggles. For the most part, one has to avail themselves of them. There are a few things that we can do without volunteer cooperation, but I want you to know those resources are here in our community. So I was saying about the remarkable compassion that our residents have shown, residents, businesses, and nonprofits, toward addressing homelessness. Going down the alphabet, the CARE team that I spoke of earlier, and then communication. I say this often to city staff and my council colleagues. You can't over-communicate. You may think you carried a message, tell it again. It takes many opportunities for information to sink in, and it's so important that we are always communicating with our constituents. Next down the alphabet is Dignity Village, 65 units of supportive transitional housing for unsheltered adults. These units were built, they're modular housing, they were built in just 9 months back during COVID using American Rescue Plan Act or ARPA funds and funding from the city's general fund. And thanks to Assistant City Manager Amy Woldridge, who was providing me information as I was coming back on the train from Sacramento, because I knew we had some up-to-date statistics. I think you would all be pleased to know that from January 1st, 2025 until March 17, 2026, there were 30 exits from Dignity Village. In other words, folks who had lived there, then moving on to what we refer to as positive, thank you, officer, what are referred to as positive housing destinations, including reunification with family in some cases, and to rental housing, both with and without subsidies. These are success stories. These are people who are able to be out, to be housed on their own. They can still seek supportive services, But those 30 exits represent spaces that then open up for another cohort of 30 folks to come in. And this has continued since Dignity Village opened during the pandemic. Feed Alameda, this program used ARPA funds, again, during COVID, and some of the city manager's budget, city manager Eric Levitt at the time, to purchase nourishing meals for our unsheltered residents during the pandemic, which also helped local restaurants stay in business at a time when they could only be open for takeout and delivery. The mayor's COVID-19 vaccine task force, Ruth Abbey, you were a member of that task force, so was Communications Director Sarah Henry. I implemented it, but with help from lots of folks in 2020, and we facilitated the first vaccine clinic ever that was held in Alameda. And just because Ruth Abbey, who's amazing, is in the room, she was working on developing a waiting list because we knew that we had 300 vaccines that could be given. That's what the pharmacy we were working with told us. But we also knew from reading the news that there are always a little more vaccine in a vial left over. So we actually gave 319 vaccines that day, and these were all seniors. And it was because Ruth Abbey was in the corner of the Mastic Senior Center with her earbuds in on the phone, calling people saying, hey, you said you could be available at short notice to get a vaccine. Can you get down here? And we were able to, with the pharmacists who were doing the injections, we didn't waste a single drop of vaccine. But that is just, it's people power. It was amazing. She does many more things too. But we did, so this helped also to lead to community education, the Mayor's Town Hall Fridays at noon that helped keep our community healthy and informed. Going down the Alphabet, McKay Avenue, and the Wellness Campus, this 100-unit assisted living facility for frail, elderly, homeless individuals will open soon and include a medical clinic and respite care for, again, some of our most vulnerable, unsheltered residents, and then residents taking responsibility, see, R&R, demonstrating their understanding of the role they play in mitigating climate change by embracing alternative means of travel, such as bikes, taking the bus, the ferry, walking, and the Alameda Warming Shelter that I spoke of earlier. So in closing, I want to observe that we do not know what's around the next corner, and that's probably just as well. But we do know that we have the capacity to meet any moment and the resiliency to rise to any occasion if we stay focused and engaged and do what we can from where we are with whatever resources we can muster. Alameda, you have shown yourself to be more than equal to the challenge, and it has been my immense pleasure to serve as your mayor these past 8 years. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, we'll do the applause exception. And you know what? As I look at this beautiful photo, I realize that if the city clerk doesn't nudge me, I forget these things. But you know what? It would be perfect. We have a very nice video. We can play now.
This is what you have done. Why don't you tell the people?
So why don't we play the video? There you go. Anyway, here's a little overview of Alameda.
This is what you waited for. I think we're ready to ride. This is what you waited for.
And work for peanuts.
They work for peanuts. I'm not sure we got their consent. Thank you, everyone. And now, not sure what I did with my agenda, but it's up here somewhere.
I've got one for you.
No, here it is. It's on the floor. I was clearing the decks. Okay. So we now move on to item 7B. Madam Clerk, would you introduce that item, and then whoever's doing 7B, and would you please come on up and get ready? Madam Clerk.
Recommendation to authorize the Public Works Director to install improvements to the Lincoln Avenue and Walnut Street intersection prohibiting through and left turn movements from Walnut Street. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, this action is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, existing facilities.
Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Scott Wickstrom, City Engineer. Tonight I'll be presenting on the Lincoln Walnut proposed diverter island. A little bit of an agenda here because we are going to go back and forth a bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about Vision Zero when we first adopted it in 2018, some improvements we did in 2020, additional Vision Zero actions, some work we did in 2025, and really what leads us to where we are tonight with this proposed diverter island. Vision Zero is really a data-driven approach. It's based predominantly on the number of collisions and the severity of those collisions and the injuries that have occurred, and with a special care towards our most vulnerable populations. The map you see ahead of you is the high injury corridor that was established with data from 2009 to 2018. And where the red arrow is pointing is the Lincoln Walnut intersection. It was identified as a high collision intersection back when we first adopted Vision Zero. We thought it was a pretty easy, low-hanging fruit to do something for this intersection. So in 2020, we did a pretty substantial improvements. We basically took what was a 4-lane road through this intersection, and we shifted the lane merge that existed to the east of the section further to the west, closer to Willow, made a road diet from 4 lanes to 3, allowed for left turn, dedicated left turn pockets on Walnut, added a significant amount of red curb to improve visibility, some painted bulb outs, and some high visibility crosswalks. Okay. Talk a little bit more about Vision Zero as a whole. Vision Zero, we've done a lot of work in the city on Vision Zero. We have a $120 million investment in traffic safety. Green is what's completed, roughly about 40 million. Yellow is what's in construction right now between Central Avenue and Tilden Clement, and some work out on the base, about additional $40 million. And the blue represents stuff that's in design and coming in the next 2 to 3 years. Again, the last $40 million for $120 million total. It's a big improvements that we made for our city. Looking at intersections specifically, we had a data set that we were able to rank and identify the top 75 intersections with respect to collisions. And we've done safety improvements at 48 of those 75 intersections through a combination of corridor projects, annual paving projects, some of the slow streets work we did, both in the commercial and the residential, and some targeted safety projects. We have some preliminary data that is a little more current. That is a data set that runs from 2009 through October 28. This is really just about collisions, just collision data only. And I was able to separate that data between the first period, between 2009 and 2019, and the last a little bit over 4.5 years, between 2020 and October 2024. And it's instructive to kind of look at what that shows us. Overall, there was a 9% reduction in the collision rate throughout the city. And those corridors that we've had road diets on, including Main Street, Otis, Park, and Webster Street, Park and Webster were the commercial slow streets that have been now memorialized from a 4-lane road for a 2-lane road. We see significant reductions in the number of collisions. Similarly, where intersection improvements have been made, we see nearly a 40% reduction in the number of collisions at these intersections. Those are the 48 of the 78 I was talking about. Zooming in a little bit on the top 20 intersections, and I apologize, this doesn't print out quite so clearly on this presentation. But what we can do is we can compare collision rates in terms of the number of collisions per year in, I'll say, the first time period from 2009 through 2020 and the last 4.5 years, and look at the rates, and then we can look at a percent reduction on those rates. Doing the math a little bit, you could also then compute collisions avoided, if you will, what collisions didn't occur because of the improvements we made. And calculating that out, it's about 40 collisions over that time period, which is pretty impressive. Highlighted in a few different things, there's a couple areas where we had substantial reductions. Main Street and Lee Stargell, Otis and Westline have seen an 80 and 100% reduction in collisions. It's a massive increase. Now, keep in mind that Main Street, obviously there was the Main Street ferry terminal that's now been largely replaced with the Seaplane Goon, but nonetheless, that's still an impressive data. We also can identify areas where we need improvement still. This is kind of where collisions have actually, the rates have gone up a little bit. So we have some areas in Park and Clement and Park and Blanding, and we do have a plan to do some significant changes to the signal timing on those 2 intersections in the next couple of weeks, which hopefully will make a difference in how that functions. And then lastly, we sit up here with Lincoln Walnut, where it's still up at the very much near the top of the list. And the collision rate really hasn't gone down much. It's gone down a measly 7% compared to the 9% citywide. Okay, so coming back to the improvements that we did in 2025, unfortunately in 2021, there was a pedestrian fatality, led to additional flashing beacons being installed, shifting the lane merger further west, enhancing even more so the bulb outs. But as I had mentioned, the collisions only reduced 7%, on par, I'll say, with the rest of the city. And interesting that when we start looking at the collision data that the police have, 30 of the 38 collisions that were in that data set were from broadsides. And those are indicative of either a left turn across traffic or a through movement going through and getting hit on the side. And that's really what we see that we're trying to address. We looked at a few different options. Lincoln Walnut does not meet the warrants for a stop sign. It just the Walnut approach does not have the volume necessary to meet the warrants. And it would be the only stop on a corridor that otherwise has traffic signals. So we anticipate that there might be some low compliance, which leads to other kind of complaints that we sometimes see. Similarly, warrants for a traffic signal are actually more, I'll say, severe or need more traffic volumes. So it does not meet the warrants for that. And it's also very expensive at about $800,000 when you include both the design and the construction. It's very expensive. Years ago, there was discussion about a one-way couplet with either Willow or Oak, one way on either street, and there's different options about how that can play out. That would have a much larger impact on the overall area, and it really doesn't address the broadside collisions because some people would still be driving through the Lincoln intersection. And so as we talked about it with our design consultants, we looked at a potential diverter island to prohibit the through and the left turn movement, which is really our best effort to limit the exposure to broadside collisions. Here's a kind of diagrammatic picture of what that would look like. It would be basically a concrete island or some form of island in the middle of the road that has a little shape like this. It's been referred to a couple of different things, a worm or a fidget spinner, I heard it called. It would also force basically drivers heading northbound on Walnut to make a right and drivers southbound on Walnut to make a right as well onto Lincoln. And that's really the key thing here is it's a relatively inexpensive, not terribly invasive way that would prevent the through movements and hopefully limit those broadside collision exposure. When we start looking at traffic volumes, these are from recent 2025 counts. This is the AM peak period. There would be 56 northbound movements that would be affected, people that were originally going through or making a left that would be forced to make a right. And in the southbound direction, there'd be about 32 movements that would be affected, both the through and the right. So it does affect people. It will shift people over to the adjoining roads, either Willow to the west or Oak to the east. We did, at the same time we took traffic counts here, took traffic counts at both those intersections as well, with the plan and intention to go back and collect traffic counts after this would be installed, if approved, to understand what the diversion would be between these different adjoining streets. So again, kind of summarizing, this proposed diverter island would reduce exposure to broadside collisions, allow pedestrians and bicyclists to continue to use Walnut Street, so they'd be able to go north across the intersection using the rapid flashing beacon that was installed in 2025. It maintains the left turn movements. We did talk with fire about this. This is not, Walnut Avenue is not a fire response route. They do not take Walnut to get to fires or calls, service calls in other locations. They only use Walnut when there's an actual call on Walnut Street. So their likelihood of using this is very limited. We would also design this diverter island in such a way that their larger vehicles could traverse it, albeit at a little bit slower speed. It is a relatively inexpensive thing that we could do. And if it would turn out to be successful over the next couple of years, we could make it more permanent with a larger Lincoln Marshall Pacific Corridor project, which is following with a planned construction in 2028. Okay. So, okay, talked about that. A couple of things here. General plan mobility element. Obviously, we're attempting to eliminate fatalities, severe injuries, sidewalks, crosswalks. That's one of the main goals within the general plan. We do have another element within the general plan that talks about Alameda Street Grid, which is to attempting to maintain the character of Alameda by maintaining that street grid and maintaining those connections. We feel that this is a relatively minor deviation from that in the name of safety, which is a higher goal that we're looking to achieve here. Okay. And so recommended action would be to authorize the Public Works Director to install improvements to Lincoln Avenue and Walnut Street intersection, prohibiting through and left turn movements from Walnut Street. This did go in front of the Transportation Commission earlier this year. They were supportive of the approach, had several questions about details that we kind of talked through with them. And then also asked that any data collected would come back to that body for review in about a period of about 6 months' time. And in 20 seconds left, I have a video if we would allow this to play
Sure,
here.
yeah.
I actually have two videos. We'll watch this first one here.
Yeah, for the neighbors.
This came from Ring doorbell cam footage from a neighbor. We are looking southbound, so Lincoln is in front of you. The police car just is heading southbound on Walnut. There's once, yeah. There we go. There's the clip. I think the sound is not quite timing with the video, but the red car was the one that came through there. So, and then there's one additional video here we can watch real quick. And it's kind of helpful to watch the videos because it gives a sense of what we're trying to do. It's a relatively low volume traffic here. A car comes, a couple cars, and then next thing you know, there's a collision. Those are the kind of collisions. Both the ones that we saw were basically through movements on Walnut that would be forced to make a right turn. That would hopefully avoid those collisions. So go back and leave it here. Available for any questions. And I will note that David Parisi with Parametrics Consulting is available on Zoom if you have any detailed questions.
Okay. Thank you for that. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay, well, I'm going to close public comment and open it. I'm actually going to lead off on this one. Thank you.
A member of the public just raised their hand right as you said that.
Okay, well, let's hear from the public first.
Okay. It's Jim Strelo.
Welcome, Speaker Strelo.
Good evening. The city has a redesign plan for most of Lincoln Avenue. The recommended design at Walnut Street is not consistent with the main design for Lincoln Avenue. Having inconsistent street design creates chaos for drivers, which jeopardizes overall safety. In the presentation you just saw, there were 2 crashes or accidents. The drivers who caused the crashes should be the ones punished. With the diverter island, you are penalizing law-abiding citizens by the acts of a few. You are also penalizing residents along Walnut Street who desire to drive north or south along Walnut Street. Only about 3 residences at the Transportation Commission said something must be done. What about the other 100 nearby residences? What I also learned at the Transportation Commission was that accident counts exclude medical emergencies. I also argue that accident counts should exclude DUI, BUI, DWI, BWI, driving or biking while impaired, because those accidents may occur anywhere throughout Alameda, regardless of the actual street or intersection. The wisest discussion I heard at the Transportation Commission was, maybe the drivers along Walnut thought that the drivers along Lincoln Avenue had to stop at the intersection. Wow, the first thing I would try to mitigate future crashes would be signage on Walnut Street. Cross traffic does not stop, or cross traffic on Lincoln Avenue does not stop. Please make that change now, not the recommended diverter island. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers?
No, they're not.
Okay, this time we're really closing public comment. So thank you for the presentation, Mr. Wickstrom, and you know that we have worked on this and a lot of other things. I very much appreciate City Engineer Scott Wickstrom, Transportation Manager Lisa Foster, because they've participated with me in many of the sessions, the follow-up session to the Mayor's Institute on Pedestrian Safety. In one of the sessions that we had, and one of the consultants from back east somewhere was looking in real time at Google Maps at this intersection and looking at all the statistics. And his observation was this intersection calls for a signal, a 4-way signal light. And I do understand what you're saying about the cost, but what I want to just remind my colleagues is there's a cost. It's hard to put a price tag on human life. And I'm not saying that the city engineer doesn't think about this all the time, but even in the staff report on the bottom of page 1 and going into page 2, it notes that the intersection, so Lincoln Avenue is primary east-west arterial. Most of the primary intersections on Lincoln Avenue are controlled with traffic signals, including the adjacent intersections of Lincoln Walnut, Lincoln Oak, Lincoln Park, Lincoln and Park, not Lincoln Park, and several others along the corridor as you go west. The intersection at Walnut Street is the first non-signalized intersection for vehicles entering the corridor from either the Park Street Bridge or from Tilden Way. Right-of-way control is through a 2-way stop sign with traffic stopped at Lincoln. And I understand the concept of warrants and that you need more of these near misses, but you also showed us in that video, the first video, that there are near misses that wouldn't get, if it hadn't been captured by the neighbor's Ring camera, we wouldn't know about it. Although, and you probably know, I think the organization is called Civics, like CIVX, and they were at the U.S. Conference of Mayors summer. I have literature I'm going to share with you, Mr. Wickstrom. But what they're able to do, and it's using cell phone data, they actually can measure those near misses because they can tell when a vehicle has, braked hard. There's a way that's done because it's hard to quantify all the things that might have happened but didn't, but the next time might lead to an accident. So my ask of the council going forward, looking at future budgets, but not too far into the future, is we need to find the money for a signalized intersection. I appreciate the design, the time. You've spent hours and hours with the neighbors and getting their input and feedback. But this intersection, this stretch is dangerous because people pick up speed. They come off of the bridge. They come from Tilden Way, and there's not another another traffic control on Lincoln until you get to the one past Love Elementary, which would be,
You go from,
I think there's one at Willow, actually.
well, there's Willow, and then you go all the way to Grand. It's a big.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Walnut to Willow, but there's one at Willow, but it's from the Park Street Bridge, you don't stop until there's a, is that the intersection after Walnut?
So going from, I'll say, east to west, you're
Yeah,
on Park
east-west,
Street,
from Park
Oak,
Street Bridge, yeah.
Walnut, Willow, and then Chestnut. Willow and Chestnut both have traffic signals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, my pitch is, I think Walnut should too. I'm not going to not support this because something is better than nothing, and I know a lot of thought's gone into it, but I just think we're doing a lot of working around the problem, and we just want us to keep in mind to find those funds at some point. Comments, questions? Councilmember Daysok.
Yes, questions. So I understand you've worked extensively with the residents and neighbors. Can you tell us what their feeling it was or is with regard to four-way stop signs versus what's being proposed now? Are you able to decipher if they have any preference for that or not?
Their overriding consideration was that we do something that limits the collisions, that limits the crashes. And they, from their standpoint, appreciated the work that was done in 2020. I think they really appreciated the flashing beacons that were recently added, because that does help a lot with the pedestrians getting across the street. But there still have been collisions. And I will say there was a recent spate of collisions where there's 3 in a relatively short period that we're all kind of informed about. And they're frustrated. They want something done, right? I go back to when you start talking about stop signs, and this goes back to warrants. We do get complaints from time to time from areas elsewhere in the city about how people are not stopping at stop signs, and that there's concerns about that and what can be done to stop. And a lot of that comes down to it's a human behavior thing. If you're regularly going down this road and there's not traffic on the side street, it tends to be human nature to do sometimes called a California stop, where you come and you roll through. So that is one of the reasons why we do have the idea of having stop sign warrants, so that we're not unjustly putting stop signs out there that lead to poor compliance. But back to your question, neighbors, they overwhelmingly wanted to see something done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So I hear your comments regarding low compliance if four-way stop signs are placed, but I think what I also just heard you say right now is at least they slow down to do a California roll. That
is correct.
That would be the form of noncompliance.
Yeah, and it's in a lot of ways what gets to be troubling is it's an inappropriate use of a right-of-way control to achieve traffic calming, right? Yes, people are slowing down from 25 or 30 or 35 miles an hour down to 5, maybe 10 miles an hour. That is traffic calming. But what you're doing is you're basically putting people in a position that they're basically not following the law at that point, that they're not, and it's not really the kind of behavior that we want to encourage. So it does have the effect of traffic calming, but it's an inappropriate mechanism to achieve that.
So one of the purposes of state warrants, as I understand it, is so that the drivers have a uniform experience from one city to another, so that in the decision to install signage, whether it's yield signs, stop signs, ought not to be so dramatically different from one place to another. That's what I understand the purpose of the state warrants are. But it is completely possible, is it not, that given the level of accidents happening here, and the fact that there was a fatality here that did was a tremendous concerns. I mean, might that have other cities kind of like decided not to go with the state warrants?
Well, there is an actual warrant that does factor in collisions. And it's basically looking at a collision period of 5 collisions that are susceptible to correction or missing the term, but susceptible to avoidance by the installation of a stop sign, right? So it would be, in this case, 5 broadside collisions that occurred in a calendar year. And that's where we look back, and while 38 seems to be a big number over 15 years, it's averaging about 2.3 per year, and closer to about 2 per year that would be broadsides. So it's not quite at that level. It's a lot from our standpoint, from a cities of our size and our goal for Vision Zero and our general plan goals to reduce fatalities. Yeah, and injuries. Yeah, we want to address it, but it falls below what that normal threshold would be for sure.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Other council comments, questions? Councilmember Jensen?
Thank you. I've also heard from neighbors, and I just wanted to follow up on a question asked by Councilmember Daysog, I think it was, about your outreach to neighbors and whether there are neighbors that are opposed to this.
I have not heard any that would be opposed to this.
My other question is, where has this been used, this type of, I don't believe it's been used in Alameda, but is there anywhere else in Alameda or locally that this sort of diverter has been put in place?
There haven't been any in Alameda, so this would be a first. I'm going to ask if you could promote David Parisi.
Oh, he's there already.
Okay, yeah, if you could bring him up to screen. He can talk through a couple examples where this has been used in nearby cities in the area.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Shoot.
There you are.
I have a very strange video.
Shouldn't it be green at St. Patrick's Day?
Okay.
Oh, there.
I think it's better now.
Yes.
Thank you, yeah, very much. Yeah, we are promoting the use of the diverter island. And again, I'm sorry for the video. I'm just actually sure what's going on. So actually, I'll just turn it off to not annoy you. But yes, these islands are used. There are several used throughout the Bay Area. There's also been many that have been used throughout the western U.S., exactly for the reasons that your city engineer has discussed, really to reduce the potential for the types of collisions, the broadside collisions that are occurring at this intersection. The raise feature that we have sketched out and has been implemented successfully in many places, again, has shown a big reduction in those types of collisions. And I also want to state that installing unwarranted signals or stop signs can really cause unnecessary traffic delays and increase rear-end collisions that don't occur today along Lincoln, but could, as people are not, seeing traffic on the side street. Increased driver frustration and leading to signal or stop sign disobedience. These can also disrupt traffic flow, increase overall intersection congestion, and can lead to vehicles taking less appropriate routes. So as Scott mentioned, the signal and stop signs generally used for right-of-way control, and that is something that, again, not necessarily needed at this intersection, and we are recommending use of the diverter island and monitoring it. And Scott, I think it's like 6 to 12 months, correct? And then seeing how successful it may be at that time.
Thank you. And in your experience, David, or city engineer, or David Parisi, is there any evidence that this has any impact on the traffic, the through traffic? The traffic on Lincoln in this case?
The use of diverter island?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would not have any interruption to through traffic.
Thank you.
Anything from you, Councilmember Bowler? Nothing. Okay. Well, I would just say I would be hard-pressed to oppose something that has our consultant, Mr. Parisi, who's worked on a number of roadway projects with us, is recommending. It's been through the Transportation Commission. And we do have correspondence from neighbors who are in favor. So, we have heard from some neighbors. So I would see no reason not to approve this recommendation to authorize Public Works Director to install. Councilmember Daysog.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question, and let me preface it by saying I don't see any reason to oppose this, but I just want to make sure that that we make this decision with our eyes wide open. So one of the issues that I want to talk about or ask about is not the through traffic on Lincoln, but are we analyzing what are the effects on, say, Willow? Will we have we quantified or have estimates as to what amount of traffic that would have gone down Walnut will instead go down Willow? And also, does the presence of the stop sign kind of ameliorate, should there be more traffic going down Willow as a result of this? Does the presence of the stop sign kind of at least, provide some semblance of safety?
Two separate questions there, right?
Yeah.
We did collect baseline data in 2025, late 2025, at all three intersections, right? So Willow and Lincoln, Walnut and Lincoln, Oak and Lincoln. And we intend to collect data after 6 months after construction, after people kind of become accustomed to it, and review those numbers and look at what those counts are. Looking at the data counts that I showed on the screen, there's a certain number that are going to be diverted to the west. Southbound are diverted to the west, northbound diverted to the east. It's almost about a net wash. We don't anticipate significant changes in volumes on Willow, but we are collecting data just to be able to analyze it and review that. And again, with the larger Lincoln Marshall Pacific project coming in a couple of years, we will have an opportunity to, if there isn't a reason to make a change, we'll have that opportunity to do that with that larger project. And your second question was about if we would put a stop sign there?
No. Given that Willow does have a
Traffic
stoplight,
signal,
it really does.
Yeah.
Should there be more traffic diverted to Willow, does the fact that there's a traffic signal there, for those who are concerned about, now you're going to divert the problem to there, should the presence of the traffic lights ameliorate that concern?
Yes, that was very deliberate in our thought process, that in diverting traffic from Walnut, you're either going to Oak, which is a signalized intersection, or you're going to Willow, which is a signalized intersection, which you have a little more opportunity and safety to make those maneuvers. And with the Lincoln Marshall Pacific project, the intention is to add a protected left turn phase at those intersections, which would further improve the safety at those intersections, both Willow and Oak.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so what I am looking for is a motion to recommend to authorize Public Works Director to install the improvements we've heard about tonight. Who'd like to make that? Councilmember Desag moves and Councilmember Bowler seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, next up is item 7C. Madam, thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please introduce item 7C, and is this the one where we need, so council, before the city clerk introduces this item, they would like to have 15 minutes. There's just a lot of detail in this, so I need a motion, approved by all of us, to add 10 minutes, to add 5 minutes to the 10-minute staff time. Okay, again, moved by Councilmember Desag, seconded by Councilmember Bowler. All those in favor of adding another just 5 minutes, really, signify by stating aye. Aye. That also passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, please introduce the item, and come on up, folks who are presenting.
Recommendation to accept the 2025 annual reports on the Alameda 2024 General Plan Housing Element, Transportation Choices Plan, Vision Zero Action Plan, Climate Action and Resiliency Plan, and Climate Adaptation and Hazard Mitigation Plan. CEQA determination. Acceptance of the annual reports is statutorily exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Alan Tai, Planning, Building, Transportation Director. So tonight, our team will be presenting to you the city's 2025 annual reports. This would be a tag team presentation. Joining me tonight is planner Tristan Swear, Transportation Planning Manager Lisa Foster, and Danielle Mueller, our Sustainability and Resilience Manager. Also want to take a moment to acknowledge our colleagues in the Public Works Department, Director Aaron Smith, and City Engineer Scott Wickstrom, whose teams contributed to our annual reports. Before we dive into the General Plan Housing Element report, I'd like to briefly highlight some of the amazing work our department staff has done in the past year, particularly on customer service, permitting, and code enforcement. In 2025, the team handled over 8,500 phone calls. These are phone calls to our main line, not including calls to our personal extensions, as well as over 21,000 emails. We also supported over 32 public meetings across 5 hearing bodies and more than 40 additional community meetings and events. And really this reflects our department and our staff's commitment to being responsive to the community and having ongoing public outreach. Operationally, we processed over 4,500 permits last year, with about 68% issued as express permits, which are issued within 1 to 3 days. The industry standard is roughly a 70 to 30% split, with the 30% being projects that do require the full plan check review. And the 45 permits is actually a dip in our annual average, which is roughly about 6,000 permits. We also completed more than 30,000 inspections. Our 8 building inspectors performed 30,000 inspections. 99% of those were conducted same day upon request. So these metrics really reflect our department's commitment to efficiency and high service levels. Last year, we introduced the Express Permits program. Looking ahead, we are further wanting to refine our permit process. In 2026, we plan to roll out our instant permits track so that our permitting process will be in 3 clear categories. This is in response to our outreach with the community and hearing the business community's needs for having faster service. Instant permits would be for simple like-for-like work. Express permits would be for projects requiring minor plan review, and standard permits for the full plan check. We think this structure will better align us with the review time and the turnarounds that are expected. And to support these service enhancements, our department will plan to bring budget proposals in the next budget cycle. On code enforcement, we've been understaffed in 2025, primarily with 2 code enforcement officers, but the mighty team of 2 conducted over 1,000 inspections and responded to over 500 cases. In 2025, we've successfully launched 3 programs, including sidewalk vending enforcement, tobacco business enforcement, as well as holding property owners with long vacant properties accountable for property maintenance. Good news is we expect to fill the 3rd senior code enforcement officer position by the end of this month. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Star Planner Tristan Swear to give the general plan housing element update.
Thank you, Director Tai, and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, esteemed council members. I appreciate your time this evening. My name is Tristan Swear. I work in planning, and I wanted to cover with you folks some of the updates to our general plan and housing element updates for the year 2025. Being mindful of the time, I'll try to make this brief, but certainly if you have any questions, happy to follow up on those. A little bit of context first. As I'm sure many of you are aware, the housing element cycle is an 8-year planning cycle during which the city is required to account for enough land to accommodate the RHNA, or Regional Housing Needs Allocation. In sort of doing so, we prepare annual reports for HCD and LCI that track the application volume, that is the number of applications for new housing units received, issued building permit volumes for those same housing units, and of course, final building construction, that is certificates of occupancy issued for those housing units, meaning they're ready to be filled. In addition to that, we also do an update on the programs, the 22 programs listed in the housing element, which I'll get into a little bit later. The table in front of you is sort of the headline numbers for issued housing units in the year 2025 with a comparison to the year 2024 with some additional separation for income categories. You'll notice that there's a significant decrease in the number of issued permits in the year 2025. While this does reflect larger macroeconomic conditions associated with the slowdown in housing production, it's also worth noting that small-scale housing projects such as ADU construction has remained strong and is on track to meet our goals for housing production. It's also worth noting that the reduced building permits issued in 2025 is a function of the reduced applications received in the year prior, 2024. It's worth noting that the number of applications received last year in 2025, 143, is a significant increase from the 80 received in 2024. So we're hoping to see a small, if not market increase in the number of building permits issued next year. Going on to the program implementation. So as previously mentioned, the city has 22 housing element programs that it monitors, updates, and makes progress on annually. We've provided some examples from specific programs here that we're really proud of from work done in the past year. I'll note that the pivot from the first-time homebuyer program to focus on members of the community who are most vulnerable, who require the assistance with deed-restricted affordability. I think that pivot towards that focus has been a huge improvement. And then there are a number of other housing element programs with updates in 2025 in the exhibit provided. Certainly happy to dig into any of those. Generally speaking, the programs are designed to both facilitate new housing, but also to preserve and maintain our existing housing stock, and of course, provide support to those most vulnerable members of the community who need help accessing that housing. And then finally, I'll just note that the city is working on a number of updates to the zoning ordinance, including our ADU ordinance, short-term rentals, our inclusionary housing. Many of these topics I'm sure the council's aware of, but we'll continue to do work on those in 2026 to bring them before the council. With that, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate, if you have any questions, happy to help answer those. And I will hand this off to Daniel Mueller for our sustainability portion.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Mueller.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Danielle Mueller, Sustainability and Resilience Manager. You see here the CARP targets. I think you're well familiar with them. As the Mayor mentioned, we are on track to meet those targets for 2030. Of course, as we get farther and farther, it's going to get harder and harder to get those emission reductions. They're going to be the more difficult emission reductions. So we really want to stay on track and continue our progress. We have been meeting our goals, and we've hit some of our key metrics already. You can see on the left the 2020 or the 29% overall reduction. We're almost at our goal of 70 miles of bikeways by 2030. We're really close to our target of 12% electric vehicles in Alameda. We've just about met our goal for water use, per household water use consumption. And we have, I think, exceeded our goal of 12% reduction of natural gas emission or natural gas usage by 2030. So we've got lots of work to do, but we are also really making some amazing progress. You can find all of the metrics that are in CARP on our really great dashboard, the website right there. So we did a lot of things in 2025. I'm not going to go through them, but we're continuing to make progress and really working hard to work with the community and other departments to make progress where we can. In 2026, we're looking to update our greenhouse gas inventory. We're deploying more public chargers, looking at new local requirements for heat pumps when we replace air conditioners. We're going to have our home electrification fair this year will be combined with the Bike Festival on May 2nd. So we're really excited to have some new audiences at the electrification fair. And then, of course, Public Works has completed the Zero Waste Implementation Plan and is looking to adopt the Urban Forest Plan. On sea level rise adaptation, as you also know, we've made a lot of progress and are really advancing quite a bit of work in this area. In 2026, we're going to be developing our shoreline adaptation plan. We're going to be advancing the Bay Farm Island project and continuing to look for more grants for our estuary and South Shore adaptation projects. And of course, with CASA, Greenbelt, and our other partners, really continuing our robust community engagement process. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lisa for transportation.
Yes, moving right along. Thank you. Whoops, what happened to the timer? There it is. Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I'm Lisa Foster, Transportation Planning Manager. The Transportation Annual Report shows the city's progress on the safety, active transportation, transportation choices, and equity goals set in our City Council adopted transportation plans. And it does represent the work of multiple departments, but largely the transportation planners in the Planning, Building, and Transportation Department and the engineers in Public Works. I'll highlight a few of the numbers from 2025, which was another banner year. We built 1.5 miles of all ages and abilities bikeways, repaired sidewalk trip hazards at over 8,000 locations, and improved safety at 79 intersections. And the seniors and people with disabilities participating in our free bus pass program took 225,000 plus rides last year, which is a lot of mobility for a city paratransit funded program. We agree with the mayor that two of the highlights from 2025 were the opening of the Pacific Avenue first segment of our neighborhood greenway and the substantial progress constructing the Central Avenue project. I also wanted to highlight we had a successful annual bike festival last year, always a fun event. We drew hundreds of participants for education and fun activities, and this year it will be on May 2nd at Ruby Bridges. Hope everybody can make it. And then looking forward to 2026, this year, we have a lot of projects in the planning and design phases, including Stargell Avenue Complete Streets, Pacific Avenue and Wilma Chan intersection improvements, and neighborhood greenways planning, Wooden Bridge, both thinking through interim and long-term replacement planning, water shuttle long-term planning, and Lincoln Marshall Pacific in the design phase. We are continuing to have a lot of construction this year, including completing the 4-mile Cross Alameda Trail. This is the year we are slated to be done after many phases with the Clement Tilden project under construction and the Clement Avenue extension at Ohlone to Grand. Oakland Alameda Access Project is, of course, under construction in the Webster Tube this year. And we are anticipating completing the Slow Street to Neighborhood Greenway conversions on Versailles, San Jose Ave, and the remainder of Pacific, and near-term improvements on Fernside west of High. We appreciate the community's patience while we construct these projects. We know it can be challenging, but they do, when they're complete, represent major investments in the safety and quality of life for Alamedans. And now I will pass to Director Tai.
Thank you, Lisa. So the staff recommendation for tonight is simply for the council to accept our report and give any direction you have on our work plans. Otherwise, as the next step, the general plan housing element and report exhibit is submitted to the State of California Department of Housing Community Development. And lastly, I really just want to take an opportunity to recognize all of the professional staff in our entire planning, building, and transportation department. All of the work that you see today is really a result of all of their hard work and effort and dedication, and I am personally very, very proud to be working alongside this talented team. Thank you.
It's a nice photo. Thank you, Director Tai. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have public comment on this item?
We do. We have two.
All right, let's have our public comment first.
The first is in person, Ruth Abbey.
Welcome, Speaker Abbey.
Ruth Abbey from Community Action for Sustainable Alameda. I came here tonight, of course, to speak to this item, but I was delighted to hear the State of the City address and to reflect on the past year and the past 8 years of accomplishments primarily around the transportation, planning, and climate and resilience. And I would have to say, looking back on these past 8 years, oh my gosh, so much has been accomplished. But I'm here tonight to support the work that's been done this past year and to look forward to the next year work plan. And I just wanted to ask the City Council, the City Manager, that it's so important to invest in these projects and particularly to invest in the future projects that will be coming up. The mayor made reference to the potential infrastructure plan. And of course, we need to show skin in the game when it comes to potential future federal funding or state funding. Where we need a lot of support, I think, is to invest in our staff capacity to take on these new projects. Many of you may be familiar with our wonderful colleague Gail Payne, who for many years was a project manager in transportation and was lent to us. I say us because we worked so closely with Gail on the adaptation projects this last several years, and she was amazing, and we lost her to Richmond, so I'm very, very envious. Well, that position, which of course was in transportation but lent to climate, really needs to be fully funded. And so if there is a mid-cycle application for more staff support for this area, I would really want to encourage the city manager and the city council to consider that. And to think about our future when we are successful in getting more infrastructure projects and getting more grants and other things, that we are investing in the project management capacity of both in planning and in public works, who already have full-time jobs and are already repairing our streets, as we heard, and everything else, the sewers, et cetera. We will need to invest in more staff capacity to do these projects that are really critically needed for the future of Alameda. Not maybe next year, not maybe 2 years from now, but 10 and 20 and 25 years, we need to honor that investment. So whatever short-term, medium-term, long-term investment that the city council can eke out, I very much appreciate you supporting that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
We now have two remote. The first is Jim Strelo.
Welcome, Speaker Strelo.
Good evening. If injuries in Alameda are lower than California and the county, why is Vision Zero such a priority here? Vision Zero cannot eliminate DUI, BUI, DWI, BWI, while impaired. Your stats include DUIs, where stats should exclude such numbers because those accidents could occur anywhere, regardless of the street or intersection involved. Regarding the parking meter program, I find the displays at night are practically unreadable. Vision Zero should include year-round education spoken in all represented languages spoken most around the island. Safe route to schools education misses about 95% of residents and visitors to Alameda. My personal vehicle preference is to avoid as many intersections with the dedicated bike signal left or right turns. That is traffic diversion. I wonder how many other drivers do the same. As a bicyclist at such bike signalized intersections, I follow behind a vehicle on the street so as not to intentionally trigger a bike signal. When you install speed humps, your track record on Versailles is to not inform residents impacted by such in front of their own house, who have to listen to the sounds of vehicles going over those speed humps all night long. The city of Oakland has a resident veto power, while Alameda does not. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker
is Michael Sullivan.
Welcome, Speaker Sullivan.
Oh, wait, hold on, sorry, it's not.
Are you there?
It's not letting me shoot. It's not letting me oh wait, there we go. There we go.
We found him? Okay.
I think he's good.
Yeah, hi there.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm a longtime homeowner in Alameda, and I recently moved into a new Victorian house. I've just completed a DIY electrification project and a seismic upgrade, and have worked extensively with both the building and planning departments to complete these. And I just want to take an opportunity to give out a shout out to both departments. Everyone I've engaged with has been great to work with. They provided a lot of support to help me understand the permit process and the building codes, and made it easier to successfully complete the project in a code-compliant way. I also appreciated the electrification fair last year to get information needed for both projects. So I just wanted to say thanks to everyone on these teams for the help on this.
Oh, thank you. Our next speaker?
That was our last speaker.
And then we're in the chambers?
No.
Okay. Well, we will close public comment. Thank you, everybody. Great team effort on that presentation. Why don't we start on my left this time? Councilmember Jensen, did you have any questions or comments you wanted to make?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you for the presentation and the reports. These are really important for me as a council member, as well as for the community, to learn what is going on in terms, especially in terms of housing development, in terms of whether and how we're meeting the requirements of the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. My first question, before I comment further on that, is with regard to the transportation to Ms. Foster. And I just wanted to, we heard earlier about the diverter project that isn't in the report because it wasn't approved until tonight. But will that be part of the future transportation program? And we'll hear more about that next year, or is that planned to be done before the plan renews in 2026.
You want to come up to City Engineer Wickstrom?
Are you asking whether it'll be in our next annual report reflected in it?
I'm asking what the schedule is.
Oh.
And apologies, I should have asked that during your presentation.
Yeah, no problem. Our intention is to get this constructed in 2026. So I have a task order waiting pending on tonight's vote by council approval to execute and get our design complete with the intention of getting that installed in 2026.
And we didn't really hear much, this may be for you or for Ms. Foster as well, about the speed hump policy that was developed or was discussed at least by the Transportation Commission. So I'd like to hear if that is part of this report or if that will be coming separately and how that's progressing.
Oh, thank you for the question. It's something we're working on behind the scenes. Susie Hofstetter, who was here, there we go, is working extensively with us on that. We are finalizing the last bits of the policy. We took it to the Transportation Commission to receive their feedback. We are looking at how we're scoring potential applications and locations. We do have a street safety capital project that council has funded for the last several cycles. And we are at this point looking to earmark $150,000 specifically for speed humps throughout the city. And we believe that would be up to 10 installations.
Great.
Yeah, and those would be intended to be installed this year.
Okay, thank you. My next question is for Mr. Tai or for housing, with regard to the housing presentation. And again, this is something that's been discussed and it continues to be discussed in the planning board as well as among the city council. And my question is with regards to the last chart that was shown, showing the how well we're meeting the RHNA goals. And it looks as though, well, I say we, but how well our city developers and builders are meeting the RHNA goals, because of course we've made it available and made it easier, but whether or not they're able to build due to the economy, thank you for your comments on that as well as from staff. But my question is with regard to the allocation of, especially of what we're allocated by the state and what we're doing for very low, and moderate, and market rate housing. What I would like to know is, since we're not able to meet these goals, whether, and we've discussed this before, whether you could comment and update on how those ratios might be changed to support either more or less market rate, more or less, as we've discussed, moderate, and improve housing for low, especially for low income.
Yes, thank you for that question, Councilmember Jensen. So I guess to put in perspective, our current RHNA achievement is roughly 12% of the entire goal. That's actually not very different from other cities within Alameda County, say for the city of Dublin, which has been really building out their tract housing. Regarding the inclusionary housing ratios, staff is almost ready to bring to our planning board a draft inclusionary housing ordinance update that will include a variety of options to meet the inclusionary requirement. Currently, it is 15% broken down by 447, very low, low, and moderate. And so our proposed table, which received council direction on last year, includes some flexibility to try to achieve the same cost for the developer, but give different scenarios for compliance. So hopefully that offers some more flexibility, but this is really a broader and challenging problem. Developer costs are not solely attributed to the city of Alameda. There are many other factors, labor, construction costs, other agencies charging fees. So it is a policy question for council, is how much does the city want to take on that responsibility and obligation to solve this larger market problem? I mean, definitely we have a slice of the pie, but what are those trade-offs? So we hope to bring that ordinance to council after receiving planning board recommendation, planning to come before you in May.
Thank you, Director Tai. I look forward to that. And I also wanted to thank you for the earlier on the agenda, we had 2 consent items, and one of which was the Round 4 Pro Housing Incentive Program grant funds, which I know you and your staff were working to get those funds into Alameda, so we can do what we do with the Alameda Housing Authority to build more housing. And I'll say the other one was for MTC funding for Willie Stargell. So I just want to end by pointing out that staff's working very hard. Although we don't have the funds here in our general fund or our other available funds, we're doing what we can to improve streets and build housing with the funds that are available from the state and the county and other agencies. So thank you for that, and thanks for the reports.
Thank you.
Don't go away, Mr. Tai. I was looking at email earlier as I was returning on the train, and I did see an email from Senator Araguian's office or communications. Do you want to just, because this is definitely related to housing and an issue that came to our attention last year. Do you want to just talk about what I'm talking about? I think you know.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the staff work on the housing side is, and our housing element programs are beyond just looking at the housing production numbers. There are a number of programs, and our staff is also engaged in advocacy work, and the specific situation here is working with the senator's office Senator Araguian's office to explore opportunities where there could be further refinements in the state law. And specifically, we're looking at the state density bonus law and ways to protect important community assets like grocery stores from being displaced by potential housing development, but also at the same time looking at ways where there's opportunity to clean up existing state legislation so that there is better clarity and consistency between existing laws and many of the new bills that have been passed in recent years. So that advocacy work is also part of PBT's work plan.
Which I really appreciated. Senator Araguian does a quarterly check-in with us, and one time when he came down not too long ago in person, we went out for coffee, and I asked Mr. Tai to join us, and so he explained the situation that we were encountering at the Harbor Bay Landing Shopping Center, and so, we explained that we're all for density bonus, but not for creating food deserts, and so, anyway, I think that this is, knock on wood, this is the legislative season, and this bill is underway, but we wanted to make sure that there was provision about this in this bill that the senator is sponsoring with the League of California Cities, I might add, to make some needed amendments to the density bonus law. And Senator Araguian does chair the Senate Housing Committee this year, so we're pretty well positioned. But anyway, thank you for all your help on that. Let's go down the list. Councilmember Bowler, anything you wanted to say? Or?
Just briefly, I just want to thank Director Tai and the other city staff that presented tonight. It was very helpful to get kind of a quick overview of these really important areas for the city. And I think that what you see in the vision here is some really strong efforts, some really impressive accomplishments in a very difficult terrain, right? We're talking with concepts like the RHNA, the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, and trying to get to some really difficult goals that are going to require some more structural thinking in terms of how do we get through the economy, how do we do things in other areas too, like with Vision Zero, just trying to get to the most effective outcomes. There was just talk in your presentation about the customer service elements of a lot of the work, which are terrific. I mean, we really have a really dedicated city staff, and we're making great strides there. And what we have to, I think, going forward, focus on is also how do we constantly look at ways to improve our effectiveness and really get to a new level where we make some hard decisions. And we may at some point have more funds to do certain things better, but we may also have more difficult times. So I think it's really important to always keep the perspective of the effectiveness towards our overall goals and planning. But I really do appreciate this update today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Desag?
Yes, mostly an observation. So the RHNA, Regional Housing Needs Assessment, I believe, or allocation, is an 8-year period from 2023 to 2031. So mathematically, we are 25% into the 8-year period, i.e. 2 years over have 2 data counting years have passed relative to the total of 8. So we're 25% into the RHNA period, but the amount of housing production that we've done is 12% of our goal. So that 12% versus 25% kind of is an indication that we're behind the rate, the pace at which we should really be building housing. All things being equal, we should be 25% of our goal with regard to housing production. But while we are off our pace, while we're off the pace at which we should be building housing, for good reason, given the economy and given the interest rates, et cetera, inflation, especially cost of construction. While we are off the pace of construction for this 8-year period, when you combine this period with the previous 8-year period, which I think was 2015-2022, in the previous 8-year period, we actually produced more housing than what we were slated to build. So couldn't one say that, hey, all things being equal, we're still, for this period, we might be off, but in the 2 periods combined, we haven't done that bad of a job, I think. It's just an observation. That's my observation.
It's kind of a nonverbal.
We don't get bonus points though for having produced more housing in the previous.
That is correct. We do not get credit for the extra housing units, although it is factored into setting the next RHNA target. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Councilmember, if I could just offer one quick point. Another way to look at our RHNA progress is because the responsibility to build housing is not on the city, you can take a look at what or how many units we have actually approved, meaning how many units have we of housing that we've facilitated for the developer to actually pull a building permit. And for that, we have, believe over 2,000 units in the pipeline ready for the developer to pull building permits on. So from that perspective, I think we're almost halfway through our 5,353 RHNA.
Okay,
so,
wonderful.
Yeah. City is not really the barrier. It is really the macroeconomics.
Yeah, for sure.
And I will just say the problem we are trying to solve for is, of course, the housing crisis that exists throughout our state. And our city has done a very good job with what we're able to do. But what I will also say, there are efforts to get more money out of the state, which is a little tough because it's the budget deficit, we think. We'll know more in May. And also just some of what we're lobbying for on behalf of MTC is more funding for housing, because transportation and housing are very, very related and go together. But and these, that is the sign that we need to take a break. But before you sit down, Director Tai, there was some reference to the short-term rental ordinance, and I know that there is actually legislation that the League of California Cities brought. We just need to sign on to that, as I recall. And I know I've said this before to staff, we need to get it on the agenda soon because we want it in place before the FIFA 2026 when we're getting all these visitors, because it will assure that anyone who is renting their, whether it's hotels but also just Airbnbs and VRBOs and whatnot, that they're registered, that we're getting the fees, and so I know this takes a little time, but here we are, our last meeting in March. Do we have a date that you're aware of when that's coming back to the council?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, my understanding is we're taking a two-pronged approach. Our finance department is taking the lead on that part of the ordinance, which entails more of the business receipts and auditing side. The planning department is handling the regulatory approach, and that is an ordinance that we will be teeing up later on. But I believe it's in the finance department has, I've seen a draft, but.
Okay, and there's city
further.
clerk who knows all things about our agendas. What's up?
It's currently slated for April 21st.
Well, that sounds awesome. Okay, but first reading and then second reading. Okay, that sounds, thank you for that. And then my second observation, and no, you can sit down and nobody needs to even get up, is I just wanted to share with Danielle Mailer is here, Tim Haynes is here. I do a quarterly check-in with the Alameda Housing Authority, so Executive Director Vanessa Cooper and several of her staff, and they were updating me on renovations to housing authority properties, Independence Plaza and B Diamond, and they were talking about new roofs that were going on, and I said, roofs? So when you do new roofs, do you do solar panels on the roofs? Because this is a way to help lower your energy bills and be more environmentally friendly. I'm told that on Independence Plaza, that's really complicated series of roofs. But anyway, but they also were doing things like when appliances, water heaters and whatnot come to the end of their heating units, come to the end of their useful life, they're replaced. So I said, we have such great resources in Alameda, and I did drop your names. But if you could maybe reach out also to Vanessa Cooper and the Sylvia Martinez and the others that and I can send an email with contact information. I just think it would be great when we can get those institutional users on board to make their structures as environmentally friendly as possible. So do we need a vote on this? Yes, Councilmember.
Through the chair, I have one more question, actually.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. It's actually for, and you reminded me of it, it's for Director Mueller. Regarding the, I just wanted to know, and it may be for PBT in general as well, but I wanted to know if and what we're doing to outreach in the community. I understand that in 2027, less than a year from now, that gas water heaters and gas heaters will not be able to be installed. You won't be able to replace a gas heater or water heater. So I wonder if we're doing any outreach and if that's part of the plan to include outreach in the community.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up. The Air District has rules that are going into effect starting in 2027 where you would not be allowed to purchase a gas water heater, and then in 2029 you would not be able to purchase a gas furnace. Those rules are being reviewed by the Air District coming up, and I'm part of a kind of regional working group that's talking about outreach strategies and how we can educate the community. There's going to be some discussion at the Air District about whether those rules need to be revised, if we're ready for implementation. I believe we are, but there's going to be some discussion about that at the Air District meetings later this spring. And we're collaborating about how to get the word out to the community about those rules coming and just about electrification in general, the affordability, the cost, the health benefits, the environmental benefits, and so forth. Of course, we're doing our home electrification fair again, working closely with AMP, who's doing a lot of outreach. We have information on our website. The building department is getting out, building division is getting out a lot of information when people pull permits. So I think we have a strategy. We're pulling together kind of to refine that and make sure we're as well coordinated as possible before those rules go into effect.
Great. Well, that's good to know. Thank you for the update.
Thank you. And then, Madam Clerk, do we need to vote on this?
You can vote to accept the report.
Okay, let's vote to accept this because it's a great report. Councilmember Jensen, would you like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the reports.
Who would like to second? Councilmember Bowler will second. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Great work. Normally, we've been going more than 2 hours. Apologies especially to the staff that is broadcasting this meeting and all that. But rather than call a break, I think our next two items are fairly fast because I have a little bit of bad news that the city attorney is, for the council, that the city attorney is going to share. Thank you, everybody. Good to see you. Yes, Mr. Shen?
Yes, Council, with great apologies, I'm asking that we return to closed session to discuss our one closed session item. We have one more thing to discuss with you, and it is time sensitive. But I do promise we'll be really fast.
And my point about the break is I will give us all a quick break before we go back into the closed session, because we do need to get up and move around. Okay, let's move on to item 7. Where are we? D.
Yes.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you introduce that while, Miss, are you doing both items? Yeah, okay, come on up. And do you want to just sort of meld them into, go for it? Yeah.
Happy to do it.
I think you're reading my mind because I never finished the sentence. Let's have the city clerk introduce. Is that okay?
Yes.
City Attorney?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay,
Let's
Madam
both.
Clerk, yeah,
Great.
please.
Okay, so 7D is adoption of resolution approving a letter of understanding between the Alameda Police Officers Association and the City of Alameda, and 7E is adoption of resolution approving letter of understanding between the International Association of Firefighters Local 689 and the City of Alameda. And my understanding is the HR Director is going to give a quick presentation on both of them together, and the council can then take 2 separate votes.
We love quick presentations. Welcome.
Yes, hi. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Noelle White, HR Director here at the City of Alameda, and presenting both 7D and 7E for your consideration today. So as you are aware, we are a CalPERS contracting agency, which means that we must comply with a variety of laws and regulations as it pertains to pensionable compensation and how we report it and how that's reflected in our memorandums of understanding. Following several compliance reviews conducted by CalPERS, there were several items identified by CalPERS specifically for our Police Officers Association, as well as our International Association of Firefighters, that weren't meeting those regulations within that language. Those items identified being holiday pay, retention, career development incentive program for IFF, which they view as education incentive, as well as acting pay, or they call it temporary upgrade pay. So these have triggered our obligation to meet and confer to resolve some of these issues with our bargaining units, and has resulted in these letters of understanding to revise that language. This is purely clarifying, specifying, adding language, for example, with the holiday pay, adding language to show that that compensation is in recognition of staff who are required to work without regard to the holiday, and really defining what those holidays are. So we've met with both groups, and they have agreed to the revisions as set forth in the letters of understanding.
Thank you for that. And so, are there any public comments on this item, Madam Clerk?
One, Jay Garfinkel.
Okay, welcome Speaker Garfinkel. This is remote, right?
Yep.
Good evening. That it would have been helpful if the explanation we just received had been included in the agenda material, because what it looked like was like a teenager coming to the parent and saying, I need a bonus for this, or I need an upgrade in my pay for that, and the father or mother saying, okay, fine. But that's not what's happening here. So I'm not clear on who made the determination as to how much would be given. I'm not clear of whether this affects the budget at all. Is it just a rewording and without any change in what's being paid? I'm concerned about the process. There was no transparency given. I'm not against the budget, against the bonuses. I'm not against the adjustments that are being suggested for the fire department. Presumably, this is being shared at a public meeting because of wanting to have some transparency in what's going on behind the scenes. So that's all I'm asking. It would have been nice to let us know exactly what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the public clarification, this is public comment, not Q&A. Was there any further public comment, Madam Clerk?
There's none.
Okay, we will close public comment on item 7E, D and E. And council, any clarifying questions or comments for our HR Director? How about a motion? And this, as I understand from the City Attorney, City Clerk, we can make a motion to adopt both resolutions, the letter of understanding between both the Alameda Police Officers Association and the city, and IAFF Local 689 and the city. Who's ready to make a motion? It's moved by Councilmember Jensen, seconded by Councilmember Bowler. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, no abstentions. That passes unanimously 4-0 because Councilmember Pryor is away this evening. All right, thank you. We move on to City Manager Communications. Interim City Manager Adam Pulitzer, anything from you?
Thank you, Mayor. No items to report.
Thank you. Okay, and any further oral communications, non-agenda items? We will close. Number 9, our council referral for this evening has been moved to April 7th, right? Yes. 7th. And with that, council communications, just remember we're going back into closed session. Does anyone want to say anything? Or save it for next time? Or okay.
I,
Councilmember
along with Councilmember Jensen, visited Lincoln Middle School last Thursday to listen to presentations made by a number of middle school students regarding certain civic projects that they would like to pursue. And frankly, many of them were quite exciting. It was really fun to hear, especially a team came up with the idea of reusing T-shirts as grocery bags. So it was great to hear their pitch on the various civic type of projects that they would love to pursue.
All right. Councilmember Bowler?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Jensen?
Thank you. You'll have to bear with me for a few minutes because I've been pretty busy since our last council meeting on March 3rd, and I want to share some great community activities that are going on. On Wednesday, March 4th, I joined the Downtown Alameda Business Association for the opening of Park Street's newest business, the Ballpark Sports Bar. A really fun place, great food and drink. The next morning, March 5th, I attended the Bay Conservation and Development meeting to learn about local efforts to address rising sea level. And then we got to Friday, and Councilmember Bowler and I hung out together a little bit together at the same table at the annual Rotary Club Lobster Feed, which raised more than $11,000 for local nonprofit organizations. Thank you, Rotary. I was up bright and early on Saturday, March 7th, and rode my bike, like the mayor always does. I rode my bike to Rittler Park for the Alameda Little League opening ceremonies, and it was very tough judging those team banners, but we picked a few to get the pizzas. Monday, March 9th, Councilmembers Daysog and Bowler and I joined Alameda Public Works and Transportation staff for a celebration of Bay Farm School where parents, teachers, and students showed their support for the nearby roadway improvements. Thank you, Alameda Public Works. Mastic Senior Center's art exhibition opening reception was on Tuesday the 10th, and it was back to Mastic the next day to serve food and hang out with members during the Community Champions Lunch. After lunch on Wednesday, Alameda Police Captain McMullen came to Mastic to share information about APD's outstanding efforts to keep our community safe. And Wednesday also happened to be the day that APD did a joint agency traffic crackdown when, according to Captain McMullen, there were almost 300 citations issued. Slow down, people. Thursday, March 12th, Councilmember Daysog mentioned that we participated in a unique and enthusiastic civic action presentations by Lincoln Middle School 8th grade students. Those kids have some big projects, and a lot of them are going to benefit our community, so that was really fun. Also on Thursday, as I do twice a month, I chaired the Alameda County Stop Waste Board meeting, developing and supporting environmental programs that make our community more resilient. On Saturday, March 14th, the annual Friends of the Library volunteer recognition event was held. It was a really lovely way to celebrate the programs and services that the library offers thanks to dedicated volunteers like Karen Butter. And it was also bittersweet for me to represent the city in recognizing the contributions of outgoing library director Michael Eitner. So just to end my story and my week, last Sunday was at Temple Israel, where I joined a number of community members for the first session of A Taste of Judaism, which will, according to the class description, quote, pack a millennia of Jewish knowledge into just 3 short sessions. So I'll let you know what I learned. Thank you.
So then I'll go next. The day after our last council meeting on March the 4th, I was asked to attend a press conference in Oakland for the release of the first tranche of Measure W funds, there was a prolonged litigation that kept us from getting these well-needed funds. And for Alameda, I believe Dignity Village is the Measure W funds. You did a little blurb for me, Ms. Woldridge. I think that was what our first, because we all spoke about the projects. No, it's the Wellness Center, actually. We're using Measure W funds towards the Wellness Center, helping close some of those funding gaps. And so several of the mayors, Mayor Lee and myself, and then the mayors from Livermore, and I want to say Union City, and county supervisors all spoke, as well as recipients. And then last week, on March the 10th, I attended the Alameda Police Department swearing in for 2 lateral officers, come with lots of great experience. The next day at noon, I attended Alameda Kiwanis Hope of America Awards, which is outstanding 8th grade students, schools across the island who have been nominated by their teachers or principals. And that evening, also on March 11th, I was invited to speak to, and I presented certificates to Cub Scout Pack 1015 at the Blue and Gold celebration, which is the highest rank. The Blue and Gold is the highest rank that, no, it's the Arrow of Light, I guess, that you receive as a Cub Scout before you move on to Scouting. And of course, Scouting is now both boys and girls. And Scouting is very active in our city. A lot of cities have a challenge supporting Scout troops because it's just hard for parents. They're busy. They don't have the time. In Alameda, we have busy parents, but man, do they multitask. Pack 1015 has 119 kids who are members, which is much bigger. It was big when my son was a member there, but it's even bigger. And then on March 13th, Friday the 13th, last Friday afternoon, I was honored to be invited to the swearing-in ceremony for a new Alameda County Superior Court judge. I had never met her, but I had a couple years ago appointed her husband to the Recreation Parks Commission, and so Kathleen Vermazen Reyes is the newest Alameda Court judge, and it turns out that the judge who was swearing her in is also an Alameda Court, Alameda resident. So we have lots of judges. They were telling me lots of judges in Alameda. And then on May the 16th, March the 16th, which I think was yesterday, it's already been a busy week, I attended an excellent webinar that the governor's office had invited mayors to. It was an overview of care courts, this newish program, even though it's administered by counties. Cities have a role to play. And then today, as I mentioned earlier, I was on a 6:30 train to Sacramento to join some of my MTC colleagues for lobbying members of the state legislature, and I will be on a 6:30 a.m. train in the morning for day 2. Most of the team is staying over in Sacramento, but a couple of us had council meetings we had to come back to. So here I am. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the city. Well, no, I'm not adjourning the city council meeting. What am I doing?
Yeah, you're adjourning this regular meeting and reconvening the
Okay,
special
we're
meeting.
adjourning the regular meeting and reconvening our meeting. It is 9:34. Could everybody please be back in 10 minutes by 10:44 or 9:44 or 9:45? But let's take a quick 10-minute break. Thank you, everyone. Find your way home safely. Okay, see you. All right. Who
Oh, yeah,
do we
there.
have?
They'll give the thumbs up. They're ready.
All right. We're going to let you go on the balcony very soon. Thank you, guys. Good work. All right. We are back, and council has just returned from our resumed closed session. And Madam Clerk, would you please report the action, if any, taken
Yes,
in that
so
closed session?
Staff provided information and council provided direction, which carried unanimously by 4 ayes.
All right, thank you. And now the meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.